talking. Hey, there she is. How are you?
Hi.
So
How are
nice to
you?
meet you.
Nice
I'm
to
doing
meet you too.
fantastic. And where are
Thank
you? You look like you're in a nice warm climate. Where are you
I
coming from?
I actually am in oh God, sorry. Los Angeles.
Nice.
In
Is it
what?
and that's your permanent home?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Yep.
Something.
Very nice. Yeah, I have some family. What part of Los Angeles? I have some family that's in Santa Monica
So I'm in
area.
West Hollywood.
Oh, very nice. Very
It
nice.
almost
Okay,
looks like,
so
does it almost look like there's a filter on my,
no, it looks good
do
on
I
our
look
end.
tan?
You look tan, but in a good way,
That,
not
that,
like overly tan.
oh my God, that is so crazy. Okay. Nice to
Yeah,
meet
so
you.
on our end, you look great. Very nice to meet you as well. Thanks for coming on the show. So let's dive right into it. Just kind of briefly introduced you. I like to have people kind of tell their own little backstory. So, maybe in a couple minutes, just kind of give us how you got here, what you're doing, and then, we can talk about where you're headed and what how you're trying to help the world.
Yeah, a little backstory is a lot of people can relate to. I was sick a lot growing up as a kid. I had like a low white blood cell count when I was born. So in those days, they didn't really know what to do with immune building or balancing and all of that. So I did consistently get sick, was kind of labeled a sick kid. And then I always say my parents were very like motivated, driven, pretty successful. So it was like I had to live up to these standards while I was feeling not well all the time, very low energy. I would say probably mental fog for years. So I kind of had to overcompensate for everything. And then that didn't really do great things for, not making me sick or not making me tired. I was consistently tired. So I was sort of, on a treadmill consistently and not really knowing how to take care of myself. And then I grew up in Arizona, which is great because a little slower pace, moved to New York, was working in advertising. And it was crazy, late nights and crazy eating and
And
talking
meanwhile,
about,
you're having, sorry to interrupt, you're having chronic fatigue, you're saying, kind of
yes,
in the middle of all this. Yeah, I can
chronic
relate to
fatigue,
that.
like I had mono, strep, tonsillitis, I had shingles, all of this stuff. I mean, eczema, digestion issues.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a lot going on that I was consistently trying to like overcome. And then in New York for 10 years, and I decided I married my husband who was from New York, and he was like, hey, let's look outside the city. And, the thought of like commuting into the city, I was like, no, I need a slower paced life. I need to go back west to some sunshine and something that is a little more calm. And we
Yeah.
moved to LA. And then we moved to LA, I was diagnosed with cancer.
So how long was the cancer in your body?
I mean, these days, the cancer could have been in my body for years.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, it was an early stage. I didn't even know I had cancer. I was getting a massage, and the woman had me sitting up, and she was massaging my collarbone and my neck, and she felt a lymph node inside my
Wow.
collarbone. She's
Wow.
like, "You're
Well,
not
that
supposed
was
to have,
lucky.
yeah, you're not supposed to have swollen lymph nodes there." And so she goes, "Go get that checked out." And the next thing I knew, it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. So it was lymphatic cancer. And I ended up diving into, trying to figure out, it was an early stage. The chemo scared me a lot because of, not feeling well so many years and trying to like figure out how to not have brain fog and not have chronic
Right.
fatigue and, just digestive issues, the whole gamut. And I realized that I thought the chemo was going to make my immune system worse. So I decided not to do chemo. I did a little radiation because I thought that was better, but it really isn't better in the end of the day. But in those days, they didn't know a lot about chemo.
Yeah.
And, it was like sort of, today they have more targeted ways of, dealing with cancer. So there was one doctor that I went to see that was also very instrumental in my healing process, like the masseuse who found the cancer. He said to me, it's an early stage, kind of tell me about your stress Are you happy? Do you love what you do? You know, all these things. And I like, no one had ever asked me that. And I remember bursting into tears,
Yeah.
like, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what inner peace is. I don't know what calm is. I don't know what feeling good even feels like. So I realized then, he's like, you know what, we need to get you to that place, because the mental part of, you know, overall healing is so huge.
Yeah.
And this was, you know, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's why I went down the road of, went into therapy, you know, started eating really healthy, more vegan diet, juicing, doing all of that. Especially LA was fantastic for that, as you know. It has everything here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I went to naturopaths and just tried acupuncture and yoga. And I still do all that today, but it changed my life.
Oh,
Very
wow.
much so. I know.
Okay. So, and then now how did you, at what point, so, right, you had this two serendipitous moments, one where they caught the cancer, the other where you kind of realized, wait a minute, like, I'm not happy and what am I doing? And I need to pivot here. So did the pivot happen right then and it was a long journey? And, you know, how did you get to the point now where you're, you know, you're a best-selling author and you have all these great products to help people in similar situations like you are? And, you know, how did that occur?
That's a great question. I wonder that sometimes too, because I never had ever dreamed I would be doing what I'm doing. It's been a long journey, yes. You know, I ended up having two girls, and then 11 and a half years later, my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And at 43 and a half, he did 2 bone marrow transplants in a year and a half. We were in and out of the hospital. It was a crazy ass time. He died at 45.
Oh my God. That's how old I am. That's just, that shines a big old spotlight on. We're all mortal, even though we think we're not sometimes.
And he was, you know, his dad died of cancer at 2. And so I don't know how much of that played a part in like him being really fearful of this could kill me. Like,
Right.
I didn't feel like the cancer was going to kill me. Also, he was hugely stressed. You know, this doesn't, I mean, a lot of factors, as you know, cause cancer, but he was like on the Atkins diet consistently, a big sugar holic. You know, definitely there were a lot of things in his life that weren't healthy, but a lot of factors have to come together to, you know, have you get cancer. Emotionally, mentally too, he was really overcompensating as well, like I did. So that was the really big turning point, because I thought, holy crap, I have 2 girls at home that are 10 and 7, 2 parents that have had cancer. You know, I now have to be a single mom, go back to work, figure out my life. And it was really scary. And I just went back to like school to like learn about nutrition and, you know, trauma work and like all these kind of things, Eastern and Western, because I thought I got to get healthy. And that's sort of how the road really started. When I graduated from the program, it was like 2 years. I loved it. And I felt the best I'd ever felt in my life from following and learning more about, you know, how to just get healthy and build your immune system and also de-stress and, you know, release some trauma that I had had. So, and somebody actually, the Cafe Gratitude in LA had just come down from San Francisco. It was a vegan restaurant, really great restaurant. They asked me to do a food delivery program for them. And that was how it all started. And then a M Cafe asked me to do a food delivery program for them. I just put this program together and I handheld these cleansers. One was a reset, one was a cleanse. And I handheld them for like, I did both programs for like about 5-6 years.
What do you mean handheld them? What does that mean?
So these people that signed up for the cleanse, like Cafe Gratitude, was all raw vegan and juices. I basically was in touch with them for 5 days. What's going on? How are you feeling? You know, just tell me a little bit about what you're looking to achieve. And they told me all their health issues. So I, you know, fast and furious, look up what was going on. I had some functional doctors and integrative doctors that I was working with, trying to figure out how to help them. And then they became clients. And then the same with the reset. You know, it was so much fun to be able to like firsthand, like handheld these people to like figure out, like, is this program right for them? Is this food right for them? What else could I do for them to help them heal? And then just one thing led to another. I created my own cleanse 7 years ago. I'm in my 8th year. And you probably know about that if you the soup cleanse that we do in LA. And
Yep.
that has been the most incredible thing I've ever done in my life, to be able to feed people a real healthy, nutrient dense food with no inflammatory food for the most part. Because, you know, everybody's different in terms of, you know, what affects them, but, and see the difference in 5 days, how they transform.
Wow. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, so you did what I'm always preaching from the heavens, which is, right, your back was against the wall. You were in a fight or flight mode. It was like, you kind of was like, you got to do something. And then you went back to school and you were fortunate. You discovered that this is truly your passion, which doesn't it make it a lot easier when you're passionate about something? And that's why I always tell people, and you know, people that have done well, I feel like in businesses, you always hear that, but I feel like it doesn't really register enough with people. And then it's like, no, you don't understand. Like if you're just chasing it for the money and for the dollar and you're not really that into it, it's like incrementally harder. I mean, and it's basically impossible in my view. I mean, once in a while somebody hits the lottery or something, but you know, it's because to be able to stick through, I mean, somebody that started their own business from business to business owner, I obviously understand what you have had to go through in terms of, I'm sure you've hit a million obstacles, a million walls, a million things where you're like, oh my God, like, is this, you know, or maybe you haven't, maybe it's been all smooth sailing, but I'm guessing, right?
No, not even close.
But then when you love it and you're like, no, this is what I'm meant to do. This is it. Like it gives you that ability to push through.
It's the most incredible thing, you know, you can do in your life, because if you find your purpose and your passion, right? It comes naturally almost. And those hurdles, there were huge hurdles at the beginning. They don't seem as big these days because of, you know, how I feel about it. I'm just so deeply rooted in it, because I'm looking to, you know, turn back the clock for myself. I'm looking to be a spokesperson myself for anybody who comes across my path. So you're right. When you live, breathe, eat what you do, you know, it does become a little easier as time goes on. Yeah.
And certainly easy is maybe not the right word, but it allows you to push through the tough times, and it makes it all that more rewarding when you do push through and you have these, you know, different levels that you're hitting. You know, I like to look at life as a video game, and you're kind of like, okay, level 1, level 2. And it's like, you know, you don't go from level 1 to level 80 right away.
No.
And those that do, I mean, like if you hit the lottery or you know, you're a trust fund, baby, you know, if you are handed something and you're not ready for it mentally, and you haven't gained the skills and the habits to be able to handle it and live a holistic life, like it's actually worse than if you never got it. And there's a reason there's that show, The Lottery Ruined My Life, right?
Right, true.
You can't handle it, but you have to, it's those stages and those incremental kind of one step at a time. Okay, I got to this goal. Okay, this is what I learned. Now I've leveled up, I've powered up, and now I'm capable of getting to the next level, right? And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so now here you are, and best-selling book, author, and obviously doing really well. So what is your, you know, now that you've had such success, what is your goal moving forward? You know, like where do you see yourself in 3-5 years? Like what are you trying to do to help yourself, help the planet, however you want to put it?
Yeah, good point. All of the above, right? But I really, personally, you know, overcame hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, and like insomnia after all of that. You know, even being a nutritionist, I definitely have issues that come up that I have to overcome. So I put my Hashimoto's into remission, and I had really bad insomnia. I ended up doing some plant medicine journeys to like really get myself back on track. I emotionally, physically, I'm just really looking to like help people, guide and support them wholeheartedly, because I've been in these dark places like they have, to believe that they can heal, to believe that they could do some small things to actually get over the hump and be better than they were prior, in whether emotionally, physically, spiritually. It's pretty fucking cool to, like, at 62 to feel better than I did at 30, you know? So I'm writing another book called Pro Aging Hacks, instead of,
Nice.
you know, anti-aging hacks.
I love that title. Yeah, I saw that. Right.
You know,
Pro aging. I like that. Right.
right?
That's that difference between it's a mindset shift from, I call them a fixed victim versus a growth owner, right? The fixed victim would say anti-aging. You're kind of looking at the glass is half full, like, oh, I'm going to die anyways. Let's do what we can to prevent and make me less miserable, versus the pro, which is, okay, let's go. Let's make this the best possible time we can and get the most out of it. And we're going to proactively take the actions to get it done. So I love that. So do you want to share some of these tips? And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, right
as
now,
a guy who's getting older himself, I'd love to hear.
you look pretty damn good for 45. So I feel like 45 is like so young when I think about like that number of 62. God, I still could say I'm in
I
my
would not
50s.
have guessed 62, by the way, right? I mean,
thank you.
You know, not trying to blow smoke on each other's, but you look great, and clearly what you're doing is working. All right, I have my own systems, and I, you know, I take care of myself. Obviously, I mean, I think you can't. At some point, you know, Mother Nature is going to catch up. I think, you know, you can get away with it in your 30s and really not really take care of yourself, and but that's really like when you're starting to get into your mid to high 30s, I think that's when things start to set, like Mother Nature goes, all right, look, you gotta take care of yourself if you want to feel good, look good.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah. So, I mean, but I'm reading right now, Life Force. Have you seen that book
I have
from
not
Tony
read.
Robbins?
No, I've heard of it. I have not read it.
Oh my God, it's so good. But everybody right now, and like the functional doctors and like Dr. Mark Harmon is doing it, like, all about turning back the biological clock. I did a biological blood test to see what my biological age was, and it was 51.
Oh.
So that was pretty cool.
That's like, cool.
Yeah. So I'm really, what I do, you know, it's not hard stuff. I mean, it's like massively staying hydrated, because we have an intercellular dehydration epidemic going on, because we have access to all this beautiful water, but we're just peeing it out because we don't have minerals in our body and our soil, and we're not breaking down food to absorb the minerals. Minerals are what help water go into the cells. So, you know, water is huge. We can't live without hydration, right?
Right.
So I make sure, you know, that I'm really hydrated every day, and 96 to 100 ounces of water is life-changing, because it also increases energy and motility. You know, going to the bathroom every day is huge. I mean, you talk to so many people, and, you know, clients are like, oh, I went, you know, 3 days ago. So they're like, what the hell? So, you know, the first.
Hey, could you explain, right? Sorry to interrupt you. Why is that so important? I think that's one of those misunderstood. People don't really talk about this. And you're talking about going number 2, right?
Yeah.
So why is that so important for the body?
It is your first line of defense for cleansing and detoxing. That's how toxins and viruses and pathogens and all kind of, you know, chemicals leave your body. Is by, you know, everything is like, it goes through the small intestine. It, like, a lot of those like chemicals and things like that get processed in the liver, and then it gets pushed into the large colon, and then it's excreted every day. So you gotta get things we think automatically food just goes in, goes out. You know, we have food sitting in our small intestine for years because we don't eat enough fiber, we're not hydrated enough to get, or we don't exercise or move our body, you know, or we don't sleep well. So poop is huge. Going to the bathroom once a day is considered constipated. That, I mean, my clients hate me because I say that.
Wow. Well, you know what?
This is after every meal.
This is right. This is a conversation that a lot of people, like, you know, you hear a zillion things about health, and, you know, drink water, you know, exercise, eat well, right, sleep. But people don't talk about this one as much. And I do think it's super important. And like you said, fiber, sleep, exercise, you know, water, like flushing out your system, right? Otherwise, you got to think about it in that term. It just sits there, and you know, you're just carrying that around, and that, you know, nobody wants that, and that can't, I mean, it's no wonder that you would have issues, and it'll compound over time, right? And one thing you said I'd never heard before, that it can sit there for years. I'd never heard. That's interesting.
It's interesting. It takes like 90 minutes for plant-based food to go through your small intestine. You know, your small intestine is the length of a football field. It's pretty freaking huge. And then it takes like, 12 hours for plant protein to go through your small intestine. I mean, it takes a long time. Or 14 hours. It's a long process. So, you know, most of us eat animal protein. So, you know, and if we're not eating enough fiber to push it through, or enough vegetables, or the hydration, it sits in there, and it causes all kinds of digestive issues. And food, as you know, ferments, and like, it's like opening up a garbage can and smelling like that food in the garbage can. It's kind of like that in your gut, and it causes all kinds of issues in your small intestine. And, you know, just also we're so stressed as well when we're eating. So when we're stressed, we don't like actually break down our food. Our digestive system completely shuts down. That's another issue. So stress is huge in regard to making sure everything works properly.
Right. And so, and let's talk a little bit more about that connection. I mean, is that, I've always heard that, and I'm definitely a believer in that, but let's get down more into the science of it. Like, do you know the science of that? Like, why is it that the stress has such a big component on our health? Like, what's actually happening, the processes?
Yeah, because when you're in fight or flight mode, you know, your energy is going elsewhere instead of to your digestive system. It takes a lot of energy, you know, to actually break down food, and especially when it's animal protein or something more dense. It's huge. So yeah, your energy is going elsewhere because you're in fight or flight mode, and it's going to your muscles. It's going, you know, so that definitely, we all are stressed these days, and thank God there's so many meditation apps and beautiful things coming up to help us a bit with our stress, right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I focus on this kind of gamification and trying to use technology and these types of things that are being used in a lot of ways, because, you know, we're evolving very quickly, and all of a sudden it's like we all have these phones in our hands, and before we know it, it's like, I think this recent trend is great because we're starting to move the other way, but I feel like, you know, the last 10 years has been sort of, oh, what can I do with this? And then before you know it, you're addicted to reading stuff that's not helping you and making you sadder, and teen suicides at an all-time high with comparing themselves on Facebook and social media and these types of things. But then trying to actually say, okay, like, how can we use that technology to help us become happier and to help our habits? And then you mentioned stuff like, it's neat to see these apps that are starting to really take off, like Calm and certain meditation apps, and there's lots of exercise apps. One thing that I'm working on that I haven't seen people, I mean, I feel like, you know, there are relationship apps, but none that I've seen that are really super big that have caught on. Same with mindset. Even like just simple goals apps, you know, I feel like that's missing. So I feel like, you know, to live that holistic, you know, this is my chart behind me. Those are the 5 main cores. You've got your mindset, career and finances, relationships, your physical health, and then your emotional health. And these are these 5 main areas that we need to all pay attention to and continue to build these success and happiness habits. And yet we tend to ignore a lot of those, right? And we focus on even just like the physical health, obviously that's huge, but that's just one aspect. You can't then ignore the mindset and the emotional health aspect, as we were just talking about.
Right. All of those, like I was mentioning earlier, I mean, I think what really changed my life and helped me go into more of a healing mode and actually go into more of like a parasympathetic nervous system, where it's rest and digest mode, where most of us live in a sympathetic nervous system, which is, you know, fight or flight, as we know, because we just don't even know how to get ourselves in. We don't know how important that is, the parasympathetic. We don't know how to get ourselves there. I mean, that's where the good stuff is. But because we've all had trauma and stress, and, you know, the way we eat low vibrational foods, or, you know, just a lot of sugar and caffeine and all that stuff. And our jobs are crazy and our relationships might not be so great, right?
Right.
And what's been going on in the world. But we're those plant medicine journeys, like with this psilocybin. And I don't know if you've ever experienced any of that stuff. Years ago, I had a really bad bout of insomnia, and I ended up doing my first psilocybin journey, and it was life-changing because
What's it called? What journey?
it's psilocybin. It's the mushrooms.
Okay.
You know,
Oh,
yes, yeah. So
psychedelics. Got it.
it's psychedelics. It is. It was like I was with a shaman. It was very, you know, like a therapeutic process. I wasn't just out at a party, you know, with
Right.
a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
And it was life-changing because I got to see that I consistently live in a mode of like, when is the next health issue going to happen for me? Are my girls going to be healthy? Are they going to be okay? I mean,
Right.
my whole subconscious was like, oh my God, when's the other shoe going to drop? And are these guys going to be okay? And what do I need to do to make sure they are? And I didn't feel like things were going to be okay. I didn't feel like I was safe or that the universe had my back, so to speak. And on the journey, I saw that I was completely going to be healthy. They were going to be fine. I didn't need to worry about them. You know, I released so much of my subconscious thoughts that weren't working for me. And that was so incredible. I think my kids thought I was a little crazy and, you know, my late 50s starting to do these, you know, journeys of the psilocybin and the psychedelics. They're like, oh my God, mom is on this crazy path. But my whole life has changed since then because I learned how to get myself into that calmer state that I was talking about earlier. I didn't know what that felt like till I was on the journey and I felt the calm. I could feel what it was like to finally be at peace and calm. And then, you know, the shaman that was with me asked me a question, was really profound. Like, do you love yourself? And I was like, what does that mean? You know, I'd never been taught to love myself. I always thought that was an ego thing, you know, to be in that place. It was very egocentric to love yourself. I didn't realize how important it was to love yourself, to heal in every aspect of your life, and also to be able to be, I think, successful, you know, like if I truly feel like I'm here to do something and I'm honored and I feel like, wow, I've been given this incredible gift and I do love myself for that, you know, that all of that is the most incredible thing I could ever experience. But all those other years were like, I never even knew what loving myself was like or what peace was like, or, you know, it was like just constantly chasing after potentially the money or the, you know, maybe some fame or notoriety. These days, none of that, that doesn't matter as much. It's so way down in the, and then money comes and all those beautiful things come when you do
Isn't that funny how that works? Right. I know. And people just don't, that's another one. They just don't. It's really hard, I think, for people to reconcile that in their brains because they just kind of roll their eyes like, yeah, you know, and it's like, first, you know, I'm similar journey. I had a path where I just was just in work mode and I kind of shut everything else out for about 10 years and built my business. And then I sold it. And fortunately, I was starting to read books and develop these other parts of my life simultaneously. But I still kind of pushed a lot, was like, oh, I'll do that later. And it was when I actually sold the business and was like, and got this big chunk of money, like you said, and I've heard so many guests I've talked to and so many podcasts I've listened to and books I've read, they all say the same thing. It's like, you realize that that's not what it's about. And it's just, you wish you could almost just put a chip in people's brains when they're born, like, so that they get that. Because the amount of wasted time and just anguish and trying to be something that's actually you're chasing that's not going to make you happy. And don't get me wrong, there's value in the journey and there's value in the lessons you learn, and so that's good.
And there's stress in living like that, you know, the stress factor.
Oh, stressful.
That does do a number on your overall health. You know, like you said, it won't catch up with you if that's a consistent place you're living in, right?
Right. If you're constantly dwelling and fearful of, like you were saying, you were constantly like, you didn't realize it, but like, what's this next ailment that's coming? What, how, you know, and if you're constantly worried about that, then ironically, then that creates the next ailment and whatnot. So
Exactly.
the mind is a
And
powerful thing. Yes, continue.
I was going to say, I mean, you know this probably because, your subconscious is downloaded fully by the age of 7, which always blows my mind. You and I operate 90 to 95% out of our subconscious. We're only like 5 to 10%, if that, conscious. That always blew my mind years ago when I read that. And when I talk to clients, what happened in those first 7 years? And the people who have cancer and hardcore health issues that I deal with, there was trauma. They just
Right.
think that it was normal, whatever, my parents divorced, or, my dad was an alcoholic, or, and they went to therapy, they were talked about it, they feel like they got past it. But, you and I know that in that subconscious, they didn't really fully get past it yet. They didn't release it. Right?
That's it. That's exactly right. And I love that you said that, because subconscious, that's where the habits part comes for us, where we're doing all these things on autopilot, right? And our subconscious is sort of like, because what happens is habits don't care if they're good or bad, helping or hurting. They're going to do their thing. They're going to compound over time. And at some point in our lives, we have certain experiences, our major influencers, whether it's our parents, school, peers, media, all these things shape our mindset, the way we see the world, the actions we take. And then we get this like, okay, got it. Like, this is my habit. And for whatever, even if it's not really working or we think it's working, it becomes automatic. And so one of the things I like to help people with is to really shine a big old spotlight, kind of like what you're talking about as well, like on your life, and really say like, okay, this 95%, this subconscious stuff that's going, like, what's actually going on in there? And what is it producing? Like, what are the actions it's having me doing every single day? And what are these, I call them failure versus success habits. What are these failure habits that I can sort of go, you need to go, that, and that's what I do. I help people gamify and reduce the friction to get rid of those, and then replace them with those success habits, which is like, okay, I know it's not going to be easy because my brain has dug in deep and it's got claws in this failure habit, but you do that front loaded work, and it's kind of like, you got to get over that hump, and you got to sort of fake it till you make it, I like to say, because it doesn't feel natural when you start trying to do the opposite thing of something you've been doing for so long. But if you can hold yourself accountable and you can make those commitments to doing it, it's really cool how habits work, because then you reach that point where all of a sudden it's building positive momentum on autopilot versus, slowing you down, and then it's actually helping you, and you don't have to worry about it. Your brain goes, all right, we got that one. And then you can go on to the next.
I know that. I mean, that's the coolest thing, is to, like, you're right, rework that subconscious. You release those, thought patterns or those habits that aren't working for you. And that's what I love to do with clients. We dive into that. And they're like, oh, no one's ever asked me those questions about early years, or, kind of what I've been doing to, like, am I happy, and do I love myself? And, like, tapping into that. So yeah, I think if you love yourself and you find, that you really feel like you honor who you are, you're more apt to open up to change those bad habits or those things that aren't working for you, right? But if you're kind of just in that treadmill of, this is what, I do every day, and it is me, and I don't love it, but I just got to accept it. I think
again, right. Yeah, it's that fixed victim we talked about versus that growth owner. It's that mindset. It's everything, right? And when you're trapped in that victim-y mindset, it's so hard. It's so hard because you're stewing in it, and it's like you're almost getting off on it in a sick, perverse way, right? You're like loving that you're reeling in these thoughts and feelings, but you're trapped, and you're like a little squirrel in a cage, and you're never going to get out until you, right? And it's this, like, until you, like you said, you start really shining that spotlight on yourself and loving yourself and understanding like what it is that makes you tick, and starting to figure out like, oh yeah, and I am good with this, and oh yeah, I do have this going for me, and oh yeah, I can get that. And then you actually start having holding yourself accountable and having success. That's when it all shifts. Once you get that mindset going for you, everything's incrementally easier.
because I think I was afraid of success. I probably a little bit still am. Something I'm working on consistently now as well. But yeah, I mean, you know, that's another issue I think of all of this is, you want success, but you know, some people don't feel like they deserve it.
That's exactly right. Well, this has been, I mean, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours. I always like to end by, speaking of habits, talking about, let me ask you a habit that you feel, okay, well, hey, I think we just found one. One of your top habits that you've developed that really you feel like is just, you're so glad, and it is one of the hugest momentum builders that's getting you going in the right direction, making you happy every day.
So I only get one, right? I only get one.
Well, yeah, so you can do, sometimes people do too. I mean, you just why don't you just talk about what is this you're drinking?
So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I started juicing, and it's just a green juice. You probably heard about Erewhon, right? We'll plug Erewhon, the health food store here, which is exceptional. But I have a juice there. They make a juice of mine that's called Elissa's Thyroid Juice. It's pretty cool. It's with dandelion greens. I know. So I started juicing greens, and I have been doing it off and on for 30 years. And it's a liquid IV of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients and antioxidants into your bloodstream and into your cells. And it also is massively hydrating because of the minerals. So, and it lowers inflammation in your intestines. I would say that's changed my life. Anti-aging, energy. I don't have to worry so much about like eating a shitload of vegetables through the day when I'm getting like cups of vegetables in my juice. So,
right. Okay, so let's pause on that one. So people that don't live in LA, they can't get your thyroid juice, which by the way, my mom and my sister were both diagnosed with, what do you call it? Hypothyroid. And so, right, they get treated. I've struggled with chronic fatigue my whole life. I still need to take naps almost every day. But they said my thyroid's fine. I don't quite know what it is, but, so yeah, I mean, tell us about.
When was your last blood work for your thyroid? When did you?
About a year and a half ago, probably. I did it.
I was going to say I could take a look at it. Do you go to a functional integrative doctor?
No, I just had my doctor, my regular doctor take it.
Yeah, because the numbers these days of blood work and how to read it is so different. General practitioners read it one way. There's an optimal way to read it with functional holistic doctors, and with thyroid, it can be night and day. It can be life-changing because thyroid numbers, they don't do the full panel. There's so much to look at, and there's so much.
So how do I have to come out to LA, or can I send my blood?
I could just send you what to get tested from your doctor.
Yes, that would be so great.
You could send it to me, and I could let you know, because I mean, I deal with tons of thyroid people. So,
and if anybody's watching this right now, if they want to do the same, I would assume go to your website.
Yeah. And I could send them
exactly
what to get tested for, because most doctors, even endocrinologists, don't do the full thyroid panel, which is so wild.
God, that's amazing. You know, I'm really glad you said that, because I just assumed like, oh, my doctor said I'm fine. So, but yeah, that makes sense what you're saying. Okay, yes,
there
please
is so much to look at.
DM me after this.
Ask me what?
So yes, but don't forget that though, because we need to do that. And people watching can go on your website that have a similar issue.
Back to the juicing, you mean?
The juicing, yeah. So right, like if people can't get that juice there, like what's in it, and how can they get it anywhere in the world?
Okay. And people watching probably know about the medical medium, right? Because do you know about the medical medium?
I don't actually.
No. Okay. So the medical medium, he's a little out there. He was the one that helped me heal my thyroid and my Hashimoto's, put it into remission. Gotcha. He started this celery juice craze. You remember? Have you heard about the celery juice craze?
Yeah, for sure.
About 3 or 4 years ago, he started telling people to drink straight celery juice on an empty stomach. It helps rebuild hydrochloric acid. It lowers inflammation in the intestines. It's super hydrating. It's full of mineral salts, and it also helps detox your liver. It's like crazy. So, I mean, billions of people around the world are juicing straight celery because of him. So it was interesting because I was working with him at the time, and I don't love the taste of celery, so I basically made my own little concoction, and I do celery, cucumber, lemon, ginger. Just, it has so many nutrients, but it's really simple, not expensive, those vegetables.
Mhm.
And I was using a Breville, Brevill juicer for a long time.
Yep.
It was a heat source, totally fine. I would juice it really quickly, drink it. Now I have this really beautiful juicer called Nama, Nama. It's a cold pressed juicer. So I do it at home, and you can make a bunch for the week. You could actually do this anywhere you want, so you just either get a Breville is getting a little more expensive than it used to be. It used to be like $179. But now I think it's like closer to 300, and the Nama is about 500. So they might be a little expensive for people. The other thing I want to plug, if you don't do that and you don't have time to juice, and also drink it on empty stomach in the morning, AG1, you probably heard of this athletic greens powder, maybe?
Yep, I have.
It's been around for 10 years, but now they're all over social media. It's an incredible greens powder. You could take a scoop of that and throw it into 12 to 16 ounces of water with some lemon, and you will cover most of your nutrient bases. And it's kind of like drinking a green juice.
And so how do you spell it?
It's athletic greens, but they now go by AG1.
AG1, yeah. So people watching out there. So you're basically saying that that's pretty comparable.
Very.
Well, that's because I feel like people, again, going back to, so this would be my follow-up question that you just answered would be, how do you gamify this habit, right? And when I say gamify, for me, what that means is reduce the friction, take steps to make it easier so that it's not as intimidating or like, oh, I can never do that, right? Like I guarantee you some people are going to watch and go, I'm not going to juice, but people can order this stuff.
Yeah.
So you've kind of you've just reduced the steps. So that's really good to know.
And you can make them ahead of time. You could totally put them in like some glass jars and have 5 ready for the week and just grab them and go.
I love it. Well, we got to sign off. This has been so great. Thank you so much for being on and sharing. I got a lot of juicy little nuggets myself. I hope people at home did as well. So your new book coming out again, could you tell people about it and where to find it?
It's going to be next year. So it's a little ways away.
Okay.
Called Pro Aging Hacks, but you can go to my website. I do have a 7-day reset you can download that has a lot of nutrition information and great recipes, easy recipes. It's like the soup cleanse, but for people outside of LA. And I do sell these amazing super seed bars that every week we ship out across the country. So they're super fresh, frozen, no preservatives and stuff like that. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, and once they're signed up, then they'll get notified when. Exactly. Well, thank you again for being on. This was really amazing, and let's keep in touch. And I will, you
will send me your blood work, and let's get your thyroid work.
Yeah. So right, you'll send me what I need to. You said test, so I'll DM you right now to remind you and with my email, and you can shoot it to my email, and that would be helpful.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to have chronic fatigue at 45 years old.
Oh, I've had it, but I've had it for many years, and nobody's been able to figure. I thought maybe I had sleep apnea. I've been tested for that. They said inconclusive, but probably not. Thyroid, and so I'm just like, I'm so frustrated, and I get to the point in the middle of the day, like right about now, where I get like debilitatingly tired, and especially if I eat something, which is like. You're supposed to eat lunch, but if I eat something, and especially if there's any carbs at all, like I just get so tired. But I need to be able to push through on days like this. Like I don't have time for a break, and it's almost like I feel counterproductive because I'm pushing through, but my brain's not really functioning.
Okay, that's what I'm here for. Hopefully I can help you. Yeah,
I hope so too.
It's so fun to meet you.
So wonderful to meet you as well. Okay, well, thank you so much, Elissa, and everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, Elissa.
Okay. See you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
That's it for the 5 Core Life. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button on this video and pound that subscribe button so you get notified when new episodes drop. Also, please fill out the free 5 Core Life Evaluator quiz. It's a great way to get a baseline of where you are in the 5 cores and which of the 5 cores you need support. In addition, you'll get some actionable advice that you can apply and start improving your life in the areas that you need it most. That's it for today's episode of the 5 Core Life Podcast. Have a wonderful day.
Get moving. Gain momentum. Join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 courses.